It is episode 114 of the Strip Poker Night at the Inventory podcast. I hope you're all having a great evening. I'm your regular host, spnanon. I'm here with my co-host, Nord. Nord, how many grapes have you eaten in your life?
How many breads have you eaten in your life? I used to devour raisins by the mouthful.
But not grapes?
Not as frequently, not nearly as frequently. I would have a packet of raisins every single day until eventually I stopped.
For those of you who haven't been on in the SPNatI community very long, or maybe aren't in it at all, Nord, this is even kind of before your time. Let me tell you a little story. Around, I want to say like 2019, 2020 or so, in that era, there was a user who popped up every now and then, probably someone's alt account, named Purple Phantom. And they were not a regular chatter. They briefly just popped in every now and then to post vague messages about something or other that was coming. It seemed they had some kind of ARG vibe going on. As far as I'm aware, that never actually culminated in anything, but we were all eagerly awaiting Purple Phantom's next appearance. And then a couple years after that, after Purple Phantom just kind of faded away, again, never actually amounted to anything, a user and a new dev dropped on the scene named Grape Ghost, our guest for this evening. And at that point, I really had to ask myself, what the fuck is going on here? How did we go from Purple Phantom to Grape Ghost? Grape Ghost, would you like to explain what is your connection to Purple Phantom, and what have you personally made for this game?
Of course. Great evening, great afternoon, great morning to those listening. I am Grape Ghost. I am the developer for SPNatI and Saria. And I am always really interested to see the statistical side, or the social science side of the SPNatI game.
How long have you been with us exactly? This is your first time on the podcast, but you have been deving for a while.
Let's say, later 2023? Is that seems right? It's about when I moved in with my current household situation. As far as the Purple Phantom stuff goes, I just thought I was tangentially aware of the game and this character, and I come from a background in wine, my family. And I thought it would just be funny to kind of make a joke of all of it. Also very easy to just not have an authentic, real personality and just make jokes about wine and grapes and all that.
It's funny, you were definitely on a bit of a Purple Phantom posting streak for a while. You weren't always a regular chatter either. You kind of popped in. I made the observation once, there are some people who will just put on any face for an ounce of charisma. And there are others who, like Grape Ghost, who pop in every few days, say, I hope you're all having a great evening, and the server goes wild. We're all built different in this world. I'm sorry?
Life would be boring if we were all the same.
It's true. I wish more people could realize that.
If only.
But yeah, happy to have you on.
Yes, no, just happy to be here, and I hope this will be a great podcast.
Well, I had plenty of praise for Lysithia, and Nord did as well. That was when Nord was just starting out as co-host. So I very much enjoyed Lysithia, and we'll talk about your current testing project, Saria, from The Legend of Zelda, next episode. So look forward to that, but we're happy to have you on in the meantime to talk about what we will be doing this episode, which is celebrating 2 main roster additions and 1 epilogue, plus some extra bonus stuff that we'll cover right now. So let's get into the host Shilling corner briefly. As always, I have a regular Maya and Jura update to provide for you, mostly Jura this time. I am still working on epilogues, but I have a bit of a bucket list before I dive headfirst into epilogue work. There are a couple things that I really wanted to address, because I know those epilogues are going to become the focus, and they won't be able to do much else in that time. So I wanted to make sure they had this content in the meantime. And I thought, what's very important to me? What's something that they're lacking after all this time with like over 30,000 or 40,000 lines between them? What do they need? And I found the answer. This is 2 poses at the moment, not butt poses, although I guess you can technically see their butts. It is for Jura and Barnett. So, as you're aware, they are lovers. Some would even say good friends. They have done a lot. They're very lovey-dovey if you play with them. Some of it may be performative, but they do love each other very much. And on screen in SPNatI, they have hugged, they have cuddled, they have caressed each other, they have slept together, they have finger blasted each other in the pussy and the asshole. But there's one thing they haven't done, and that greatly distressed me, is that they never kissed. I sought to correct this immediately.
Excellent.
They're such great roommates.
These are 2 poses, both during their forfeits, one with Barnett in front and the other with Jura in front. So, I mean, you could do there are other characters that kiss and they kind of just do like they repurpose their butt pose where they're facing totally backward and then the other character's just facing forward like normal. I wanted to, I'm a visual kind of guy. I wanted to get more like the open mouth French kissing, tonguing goodness. You can see their visible tongues a little bit if you zoom in. Sorry, Solitaire, I know you have enough to censor these already. Now you have to censor this hot French kissing action.
Hold
There you
on.
go.
There's something I want to point out. I don't know how you got away with this. You disgust me. They're holding hands in one of these? Oh my god, what have you done? How? I can't believe this.
I'm pretty sure they hold hands in other poses too.
What?
Don't Zeke and Pandoria hold hands?
Yes, but they're already living in sin.
It's because they're straight, isn't it? That's why it's okay. Anyway, happy Pride Month that we're recording this. Everyone immediately had that response, and I was just like, oh yeah, it's Pride Month. I just wanted to make them kiss, irrespective of what month it was. But yeah, I had to make the regular sitting poses or posing, and had to think ahead of time. It's like, well, I'm going to erase their heads and replace them with the profile heads that I've drawn for them. So how close do their bodies need to be in order for that to be feasible? Anyway, I hope you like them. I tried to make them play fairly often, although I need to do more play testing with that. It's a bunch of free lines because it's just them going and interrupting each other for more of that. So that's what I've been up to. Nord, what have you been up to? I'll tell you, a whole bunch of coding.
That, and on the note of Zeke and Pandoria, for Pride Month, I have made more heterosexual interactions, but it is one that is more in service of the girl in the relationship than the man. I made it so that if the conditions are right, Zeke will go down on Pandy. And by go down on Pandy, I mean he can just lift her up to get into this position. And I too find that this was the prime opportunity for more lines, because while this is going on, Pandy is the only one that can respond to other things happening in the game, which she does to a small degree, but obviously she's a bit preoccupied, as is Zeke. So that was fun to me.
Zeke is treating that moisture like it's the Gatorade stuff they drink in Evangelion when they're in the robots. Actually that.
And you made this quite complicated for how it could trigger.
Yes, because I want it to be able to show. I want it to show up in the middle of the forfeit, but I don't want it to happen every game. So
Made it so he's peer pressured into eating around.
You know, if you put it like that, that is kind of what happens. If you want to, I can get into it, but basically, it's a points-based system. By default, it's a 1 in 100 chance. If he sees female tandem forfeits happening, it'll greatly increase the chances. Even more so if it's a thing of girl on girl where one is going down on the other, such as with Monica and Sayori. Or one easy way to get at the trigger is to pair them with Prince Miko and her consort Tojiko. Alternatively, this is probably a lot more difficult to get to trigger consistently, but pairing Maya and Juro together gives a lot of points because to my understanding, Maya goes down on both of them.
Very rarely. I've never seen anyone post about it, but it can happen.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, that was a bit of fun to add. I don't have much else to shill for them, or anyone else right now. I've just got the new coding things to get into. Did you have anything else?
I'm good. Go for it. What happened on the general game side?
Yeah. So going sort of in order of how these have been added. One thing that's been added is birthdays. So you can now give a character their birthday in their character file, and what will happen is on their birthday they will be featured. So characters that are suggested to be played with are sort of semi-randomly shown. Newer characters and characters that haven't been in the resort pool yet are prioritized. But when it's their birthday, they can now be highlighted the same way. I think the very first character to make use of this was Maya, in fact, because it was the right timing for it. This is something that I will admit I was against, mainly because a lot of characters in fiction don't actually have defined birthdays. But now that it is in the game, you'd better believe I'm going to take advantage of it with every character I can.
Yeah, Maya was also very fortunate that supplemental material provides very hard and fast birthdays for all three of them. Maya is June 10th, so it just passed. Jura is August 31st, look forward to that. And Barnett is October 4th, although she doesn't get any points for that. She doesn't get a bonus, but there is lines. But yeah, I also added them for Revi, Ryuko, and Videl, but they do not have anything defined, so... For me, the solution was just to do either manga debut dates. Revi's was a little weird because there was a preview chapter before it officially started serialization. That's March 19th right now. And Videl is just the release date of the first Dragon Ball chapter. She appeared in May 11th. And Ryuko was weird. I couldn't find anything on her at all. And of course, it's like a show. So that would also be the same debut as Nonon and stuff, I think. Unless the episodes are different. And I found October 23rd, but that just seemed to be completely made up, and yet everyone was going along with it. Fair enough. Yeah, that's kind of the soft solution we have now for characters who don't have any defined birthdays. It's a bit of a haves and have-nots situation, but I'm not sure how much you coded this in. I think it was kind of Reform Copyright's pet project for a while.
Yes, it was Reform Copyright doing the actual coding side of things. I think it was either him or Little David that did the actual character editor implementation. I can't quite remember. I did some of the other changes, though. I don't have much else to say about birthdays. It's just a neat little feature that we have now. Something else that's sort of still a bit of a work in progress is something called gallery mode. Basically, I have added in a way that you can have multiple images show up for a collectible. Basically meaning that, say, if you want to do a short little comic, series of panels, or if you just want to show off multiple in-game sprites as a reward for getting a specific collectible, you can do that now, and it'll automatically add that as it adds the buttons to flick through them. There's currently no limit to how many images you can set for this, so if you really wanted to, someone could put it so that you can see the character's entire list of sprites. But the main limit of it right now is that I have not been able to crack the character editor implementation of this, so it's still a bit of a beta feature while either myself or someone else figures out how that'll work. You can put it into a collectibles file right now, and it'll not be overwritten if you save the character again, assuming you do it a certain way. But I think just the potential of it will be, something neat to see. I'm sure more people will jump onto using it once it's more properly implemented.
And finally, You weren't done with coding just yet. More inspiration struck. There was a change to an addition anyway, to the character ranking system. And, presentation of the roster on the character select screen. You can talk about that.
That's right. This is something that I was prompted to do by our community server admin, Cavendish. He'd reminded me that I was supposed to have taken a crack at this a while ago, but for whatever reason, when I was doing it before, I couldn't get it, and now I essentially did get it working within a day after looking at it again, so that's all just the preamble. Basically, it's just the community-ranked sorting method. Now, years ago, when I actually started, it used to be that the results of the resort poll were just the straight-up character order. But for the sake of variety, presenting more content to the end user, we implemented a feature of fuzzy sorting into the featured sort method. This essentially means that character positions get shuffled a bit whenever you load the browser, and it's done in a way so that for each day you've logged in, it'll be the same shuffled order, but it'll be different for every end user. The exception to this is where in the top 15 of characters, only one of them can be from the same franchise, and it's the highest one wherever they've been shuffled to. And then one male character is pulled into the top 5, just to show, hey, we have male characters. So in that way, community-ranked sorting is just a return to the older method, where it's just the results of the resort. Now, this is, at the time of recording, this is an ongoing debate as to what the default sorting method should be again, if it should remain as featured with fuzzy sorting, or if the ranked feature itself should return, and if it is going to be community ranked, should it have the caveat for a male character getting pulled up, because currently we have a male in the top 15 at slot 15 purely because Leon Kennedy from Resident Evil gets that many votes with the general player base in particular to bump him up, because male characters do not get nearly as many votes as female characters just on average. Leon is sort of an anomaly in that regard. But yeah, it'll be an ongoing discussion. An alternative to having featured being this default method going forward would be to have some other way of randomly presenting more characters to the user rather than just the 4 characters that are suggested as a starting table when you load in. Because, as I mentioned earlier, that's influenced by how new a character is, or if it's their birthday or something like that. So having a new way of suggesting random characters just so that people get a sense of what variety we have, that could be a good shout. Do either of you have opinions on the sorting method?
Grape Ghost, go ahead.
I don't really have any thoughts on it, to be honest. It just seems like as long as you're presenting an array of characters to people who are already enjoying certain types of characters, that seems really effective to me. If someone else looking for a list of the other, probably search on their name rather than for girls with purple hair. That's what I really think about it. I just gonna make content because it's fun.
I have spent so many hours in the trenches of these resort knife fight discussions, and the most I'll say here is that it's an ongoing debate, and I think the current 2 defaults we have don't please everybody, and I think there's probably, if we continue the debates, I'm willing to go back in the trenches. I think there is something that can please more people as it currently stands than either of these can on their own. So I hope there is more discussion. I'm ready. I can take it. Anyway, last thing before we get into the characters is So, last few episodes, I have been shilling the 2025 general feedback poll for SPNatI. That has now ended. And I've posted the full results sheet. Very good total or like response volume as usual. It was an anonymous questionnaire. There was a bunch of questions, just general questions about the game. You know, who are your favorite, or who are some of your favorite characters? What do you like to see out of dialogue and art and that kind of thing? What do you like about the game in general? What are some improvements? What are some characters you'd like to see added? That kind of stuff. And we just, not a whole lot of analysis, like statistical analysis is really done most of the time. We just kind of read and pick out things that seem interesting or fun to us and see what people are thinking. Get your finger on the pulse of
For shame.
the player base. Yeah, we'll get into statistical analysis.
For
Don't worry.
shame. Distill it. You must use math.
Well, let me share a few of my insights very quickly. One person said Jura and Maya should kiss. I agree. This will happen eventually. Don't worry. Barnett will be involved somehow. Okay, she's not going to get into yard. But they should definitely all kiss. All three of them should kiss. So I agree. And I'm taking it to the next level eventually. You wanted a bit of statistical analysis. I can provide it.
What?
It's not quite as rigorous as you're used to. Okay, this isn't Six Sigma or anything going on here. But the required question last time, just to make sure people are actually responding and reading, last time was write anything here, and I had a stroke of genius this time, and I wrote instead tits or ass. That was the required question. Everybody had to answer that. It was an open answer, but I do have the results. So, there were 444 overall responses to the poll. Very nice, very aesthetic. 194 of those said tits, or some variation thereof. I had to read them all. Ass got 134. Both got 61. And other, such examples include armpit, cock, and personality, got 49.
Armpit?
That leaves us with a total of 44% tits, 32% ass, 14% both, and 11% other. Sorry if you have weirder tastes. I think I included pussy in other as well. Because that's not what I said. I said tits or ass. If you count only tits or ass responses, it turns out to be 58% tits and 42% ass, which is about what I expected it to be. 60-40. Personally, I'm not sure if there's a ton of research that's been done about this. Maybe you know, Grape Ghost, but I think in Anglophone countries at least, Anglophone is a word that means countries where SPNatI is played. I believe there is in general and cultural preference for tits, but with a sizable ass community. So yeah, 60-40 seems about right. Did you have any?
I'll look that up to see if there is any evidence of that. Interesting.
Do you have any general insights or funny things that you noticed, either of you, Grape Ghost?
I was grateful for the positive feedback released with the she was a couple of people's favorite character, and none of their favorites. I really enjoyed that. I think, to be honest, it was kind of a lot to digest through. I gave it a scan and kind of came away with it being that as long as you're working on your characters or adding content in some way, you're going to make someone happy. So, nothing but positive vibes, really.
Nord?
I love Dunban because he's the only male with a female POV epilogue that actually puts my vagina to use. I love the directness you get sometimes with these. One of the most bizarre things I did see was when I looked up Yusei.
That's not true anymore, by the way. We'll talk about that this episode.
That also isn't true, yes. But something else I saw that was bizarre was I looked up Yusei, and someone keeps putting Yusei Akiza. Akiza is his girlfriend from Yu-Gi-Oh! 5Ds, and she is not in SPNatI in any form except for the sake of a one-off joke with Yuno, where Yusei copies his thinking about his friends thing. Oh, did you tally up what the most common way of finding the game was? It looks sort of like it was Google.
I did not. That's going to have to be left for someone else another time. unfortunately. But hey, I'll leave you to it. So yeah, we can't spend too much time on this. I will say a couple things to end off. Again, thanks for everyone who mentioned Maya and Jura and the work that goes into them. It's hard to stand out on a cast of 400, so I really appreciate whenever they get a mention. I noticed that perhaps in fitting with that tits preference in our Anglophone culture, perhaps this is a case of well, let me put it this way. Ass lovers seem to be mostly okay with tits. But there exists some real hostility among tits lovers, the majority group to ass. There are some very people who are like, that's where poop comes from, or I have zero attraction to ass, or I find ass exactly as attractive as kneecaps. Someone said, which perhaps they have a kneecap fetish.
I find that to be extremely implausible.
Which perhaps that's performative. Perhaps it's just majority bullying. I don't know. But you don't get that on the other side from ass. Ass is pretty much okay with tits. Again, perhaps it's like a left-hander situation. Like a lot of left-handers are kind of ambidextrous in this world because they have to be. Whereas if you're a tits lover, you don't have to pretend, or you don't have to engage with the ass in any meaningful way. And last, even though butts may have lost the poll, in the what do you always want to see out of art, butt poses, I think, was definitely the most popular response. Perhaps that was a bit of a loaded question. But yeah, people love seeing butt poses on characters. Butt poses stay winning. If your character doesn't have one, go for it. I think that's going to do it for the preamble. There was a lot to get through. But these actual character releases should be fairly short in comparison because they're mostly main roster stuff and then a brief epilogue. Let's get into it. First off is a character who's definitely known for her tits. In fact, both of these characters are. That's not to say she doesn't have a nice ass too, and if she even got a recent butt pose. The very popular, very iconic Momo Yaoyorozu from My Hero Academia. This was one of the characters from the 2024 Masquerade, where a bunch of anonymous teams got together and all worked on a project together, or all worked on different projects together in little groups in like a very sort of a sprint, objective based thing going on, trying to get the community fired up. And as it always goes, some of these projects flame out and others make it to the finish line relatively quickly and smoothly. Momo is kind of in the middle here. She started off pretty collaborative, and then by the end, as it typically goes, there's kind of one writer left who was doing most of the heavy lifting and actually finishing her up. But she made it. It's always great to see characters kind of adopted long term like this and actually finish up the whole process, especially in a masquerade where their fortunes vary so much. But yeah, she made it. She's on the main roster, and she hasn't gone through any resorts yet, but she's definitely smashing up the play stats. I like her, and I definitely made an effort to write targets with her because I knew she would get plenty of plays. So it's good to get matched up with her. She's very popular. She has big titties. People love her. Grape Ghost. What did you think of the new and fresh release that is Momo on the main roster?
I really enjoy really good playing with Momo. I think Bart was very cute.
By the way, she can create things from her body. That's her thing. That's her superpower. She does that in the game. Anyway, go ahead.
It would be wonderful to take advantage of that. Some sort of way. No, I think Momo was really cute. I think the art that she has is very beautiful. It really portrays her as this, classical Japanese beauty, but she's still a cartoon. And I think the art for her really exemplifies that, as well as some of the lines where it's, she's unapologetically horny sometimes. It's really nice. But I think the things I enjoyed most about her is she has this really great subtle tone of formality, and it balances out throughout her. The visual read on Momo is that she's very formal. For her pubic hair is trimmed in a very specific way. She's dressed very linearly, and the way she communicates is direct but very tasteful. She's super cute. And And I think she's definitely dialed down enough verbs that she seems very comfortable at hug. She's also very tall. I was very surprised to see that both Yuzuki and Momo are very tall women. They're both Japanese. They're both classically Japanese. And they both use toys to masturbate. I did find for some areas of feedback. I think who rambles are a little bit of a mixed bag for me. I'm not super familiar with the manga that she's from. And it's a lot of war. So it seems like there's a split between trying to slip in these references and just exposition dumping. And when the exposition dumps happen, if it's intentional to be funny, she's just going on at length about something that we know nothing about as viewers, then I think that's fine. But it can be a little much at points. For instance, when she finishes, she says this name, like Shito, I think, and it didn't feel like there was lead up to who that is, but if that's just an Easter egg for fans of the show, that's fine. I would just say in general, she's very formal and delicate, and there's a lot of subtlety, but nonetheless conveys a lot of emotion. I think she's a very excellent project from a writing and from a art perspective. So I really enjoyed playing her. She's very, very good, and I look forward to interacting with her.
Nord?
I agree with a lot with what Grape has said. She does have one or two lines where she fantasizes about a specific friend that I think is what she calls out at the end.
Where was that?
It's either that or
there's a male and a female friend that she's being shipped with.
I see.
Yeah. Nabur definitely has taken over the writing duty, which I think with any Masquerade project, it's good to have multiple writers to bounce ideas off of each other and get the character off the ground, especially if you're a first-time writer like Nabur, who has honestly been going really hard. Nabur's definitely been cooking. It's generally up to banter with any character that catches his fancy, and he fancies pretty much any character you put in their path.
I appreciate that Never is very much Never is wonderful because he will get horny about everything. It is just anything you post, he's doing the exploding water jug gif for everything, and it's kind of wonderful to bring that energy of just I will destroy anything I can get my dick on. I don't care what is going on with it, and that energy is really wonderful because it makes him very enjoyable to collaborate with.
Yeah. It's a great amount of positivity. Momo and Yuzuki have been consistently paired highly together for weeks now. I wonder how that'll end up after they're both in the resort. But also shout outs to Phonebox for an amazing job with all the art. And of course, I will briefly mention the developer formerly known as Unknown for assistance with her body details. Tragic that they mysteriously vanished and have definitely not returned with another alt account. I would say that any issues I saw with Momo before have been ironed out. My critique would be that she has a butt pose now, but she only has the one, and it stands out quite a bit because of the specific stance she takes, and it's very impressive that Phonebox did a side view face for her. Don't get me wrong, but if she only has one stance to take, one expression for it, it does stand out whenever she repeats the pose every couple of rounds.
I mean, it's on every stage. That's pretty good.
Yeah, that's also very impressive as well. Most developers like me don't even bother doing that much. My only other note here would be to see if it'll be interesting to see if they implement more forfeit variations, like I know that their team initially planned to do when they were in the concept stage. They were okay, what if we have 3 different tiers of forfeits you can do depending on how worked up she is, and they did all this research into all manner of marvelous creations Momo could possibly create. I don't know if they're going through with that with Momo herself, but Nabur has definitely volunteered that to other characters. just because Momo Short sort of lends herself very much to like, oh, do you want to try using one of those? I can create one for you right now on the spot. Here, it's a little gift. You can keep that after the game.
One of my characters will be taking advantage of that very shortly.
Oh my. I think I'll just bring this up then. I plan to do that with Yuzuki as well. But alas, as Yuzuki's writer and artist, I have to do both things.
She's also doing something with Maya and Jura. It's not a dildo, though.
What is it then? Or is that a surprise?
I think it's only halfway in the game right now. You'll see. Go play with them. Let's just say she's a big fan of both of them. Mostly Maya. Okay, so my notes. I have to say, like, my critiques when she came on testing were that she felt very unfocused. It very much felt like a character written by a bunch of different people that were kind of struggling to collaborate, and you can kind of tell, like the rookie lines, especially Nabor Sahor is the writer, and or like the writer who's kind of like shaken out and who's left and doing most of the work now, and he was the new writer, and you can kind of tell there were a lot of like very rookie, overly porn parody kind of lines, and he was bringing that horny energy all right. But it seemed a little much, and newcomers in Masquerade teams tend to bounce. They tend to be kind of flaky, so I was like, he's kind of dragging this team down. But I was really surprised. When he was the only one left, he really got his act together, and he put the work in, and he kind of modulated the tone. And what you have now is a character who feels a lot more cohesive and focused, and he did a great job. I admit I did not expect that from him when he first came on the scene, but he's been active in the community, and he's done a really nice job with her. I liked how our conversations developed in targets. So yeah, very nice. She feels very truly collaborative. She feels like a platonic ideal of a Masquerade project, because like the artists are pretty responsive as well, and they get to it whenever something new needs to be done. They didn't just leave her out to dry after making the model. Like they seem pretty proud of those butt poses that they made, and they were pretty quick on making them when they were actually prompted to. So very nice to see there. I really like how she's come out. In some ways, this isn't a critique. This is just my observations from like the way the character is. She reminds me of old Maya. Sometimes she's polite, kind of reserved, kind of prude, and almost sex negative, or like a little too protective of other girls. That doesn't fit Maya. That's why I didn't like it. But if it fits Momo, that's perfectly fine. The prudishness isn't great. I pivoted away from that because there wasn't a whole lot of support for it, and why would you do that in a porn game? But even Momo starts to come around on this. Sorry for always relating it back to Maya. You could say I'm getting a bit of a boss baby vibe, a bit of a Maya vibe from each of these characters. Other things on the writing, I love her random bouts of seriousness or intense focus. And when she goes on nerdy academic rambles, I guess, and then the awkwardness that ensues, I guess Grape Ghost didn't like that much, but I thought it was decently entertaining. Kind of made sense.
I think when it's like a lore thing, it can be a little bit confusing, or just like sort of breaks the flow of the game. But I think the technical ones are obviously very fun. So I would agree with you on that.
I mean, I just think it makes sense for her. She's studious. She's upright, and she has to study a lot for like material science, material composition, so she can make stuff with her quirk correctly. She's definitely more fun towards the end of the game, though, when she gets more positive and proud of her looks. So that was nice. And on the art side, she has the occasional exaggeration to her facial structure. I think flustered is an example, hopefully, where her face distorts more. I wondered if those were actually referenced from somewhere. It does seem like My Hero Academia can be cartoony at times, for sure. Some poses still don't quite match the intensity of the line. There are situations where she seems, I said this even when she was on testing, she seems like kind of mildly angry, but she uses like a combat ready pose or that kind of thing. and doesn't feel appropriate. So again, if you're still working on the art, maybe try to tone some of those down, make alternative versions of the poses where they're a little more reined in. On the whole, though, very good character, like her very much. The player base seems to be responding to her, and they should. She started out popular, and I'm sure she's going to stay that way. Very nice how this project turned out. And also, for the artists listening, good job, Phonebox and Unknown/Seba, by the way. But I simply insist on the ponytail flip. I insist upon it. Any final thoughts on Momo?
I think she's good.
Yeah, I would agree with that. She's very good. Lots of fun to play with. Very enjoyable to target.
I think she's neat, even. Okay, then. Well, as I said before, do you, SPNatI podcast listener, enjoy Japanese women, very polite, and of extreme above average height for Japanese women, and also extreme above average boob size? If so, you're in luck, because not only do we have an extremely popular character that fits that description, who just joined the main roster, but we also have an original character who just joined the main roster. Nord's original character, Yuzuki Yasuda, a Kuchisake Onna. She's a Christmas cake. She works in an office, and she has a horrifying, grotesque split mouth, like Jeff the Killer. Despite all of these tragic disabilities, she is in fact also, at least for now, extremely popular among the player base. I couldn't believe it. I mean, I can kind of believe it because, legs and big titties and all that, but you think the mouth would be a deal breaker for a lot of people. I guess we'll see, but for now at least, she is doing quite well, especially for an OC, perhaps the most successful OC in SPNatI's history. Time will tell. But yeah, Nord, you made it to the main roster with your pet project, with your vanity project. with the chains are off, and you were doing whatever you damn well please.
Yes, that's right.
So what's going on with her? I mean, besides the things that we've talked about before, she's already gotten alt skins. We're going to talk about another alt skin in a future episode. But yeah, she's got plenty of content and plenty of things going on with her. So yeah, Nord, what was the end of the process for getting her on main?
The end of the process, like with any character, well, getting a character to main is never the end unless you want it to be. The final process for, if you, dear listener, are unaware of how this actually works, characters go into testing so that people can try them out, get a feel for what you're doing, and then provide hopefully useful feedback to give you a clear idea of the direction to steer your character in. And then when you feel like they're ready for the main roster, you go for sponsorship, or whenever you just are needing more direct guidance, you go for the sponsorship where players, community members, developers will play test your character and then give a list of positive things and disqualifying flaws. And your job is to take the positive values on board and keep focusing on that to help your character do well, and then you address the flaws which disqualify them from the main roster. In the case of Yuzuki, a lot of my sponsorships came down to adding specific kinds of generics or filtered lines, that being towards specific character tags. Generally speaking, with the idea that if someone pairs Yuzuki with any other random character in the roster, she should at least have one or two unique things to say to them, even if she doesn't target them directly, like how she has extensive banter with Momo, or Maya and Jura, or Nadeshiko. Since she's reached main, I've just been slowly adding to her. I haven't added that much quite recently. I'm still working on additional content for her, just slowly. I do still plan to give her an epilogue story, but other things are taking my priority just at this moment in time. But hopefully me saying I plan to do an epilogue for her will convince me to follow through with it. Because I feel like I've gotten a surprisingly warm reception to Yuzuki, even from people who might necessarily say they dislike OCs conceptually. They've said that Yuzuki's one of the good ones. But yeah, I feel like since Yuzuki is realistically the only place you can interact with her, get to know her, having an epilogue where you see more of her home life, her outside of SPNatI life, I feel like people who are fans of her, of which she does have quite a few, I think they'll appreciate that a lot. And in a more cynical way, it gives more players a reason to play with her. Just before I let you two get into it, I will also just say shoutouts to Nomlet, because Nomlet has made the majority, 2 out of 3 of her alt costumes so far. He's made her Valentine's outfit and her office outfit, and we're working on getting her to have a summer outfit as well. The sleepover outfit we'll talk about in a future episode, but that was my doing.
Grape Ghost, unlike me, you did not get to share your overall thoughts on Yuzuki when she first came on testing. So what do you think of her?
I really enjoyed playing with her. It's so fascinating to see her and Momo at the same table, because you get this very interesting... It is not often that you actually put 2 different characters from a similar niche, but not the same franchise, on the table at the same time and have them perform very differently. For instance, I think Momo and Yuzuki are very much from the same background, to a point, and they're both similar characters, but yeah, you're able to tell such different stories and different narratives with them. And I thought that was really, really interesting. I think Yuzuki, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe she's a translator for, just a company. She's like a salary woman.
She works for the government.
I think okay. So I think Bart did a really great job capturing the way she speaks as some, for instance, she speaks like a Japanese person speaking English, and I think that's a really very delicate balance to avoid coming across as a caricature. And I think he did a really great job there, so I was really impressive. I also appreciate that because Momo is more cartoony, Yuzuki's expressions are a lot more subtle until they're not, and it's just like that. When she does the circle eye, I think that was really cute. I think there's a lot of little Easter eggs and details in her artwork that I really appreciate. I think she has a little bit of an areola slip when her talk comes off. I think that's a problem for many endowed people with large breasts. And so that was really amusing. I know it's done for kind of titillating reasons, but I thought that was a very endearing touch. When she talks to Momo, I had to play a couple games, one of the 2 of them together, then separately, but she's very interesting how she engages with Momo, but also just in general. She's there to have fun, and she's having a great time, and there is definitely some off-the-wheel self-indulgence, but if you're not going to have fun and go into the parts of the character you really like, why write them, right? I think her dialogue is interesting. She has a lot to say to a lot of different characters. With her tags or filters, I forget which one that is, but it's the one you target on characters. Those were really good. The only question I really have with her is, does she drink fluids? So I feel like that would just leak out of her mouth in general. So that part to me was interesting from an anatomical perspective. But the rest, I really much enjoyed her. I don't have any feedback, so maybe some of her poses are a little too subtle. But that's fairly minor. I think she's a very, very good character.
I think she's got to throw them all back like shots.
I do have an answer for that, and you can see it with if Tifa pours her a drink, she has to throw her head back.
She has to go into full snake mode and just,
She's got to lick it up.
She's taking back shots to her mouth in a certain perspective.
So I have a question, which is, I have to agree, it's a very delicate balance of, writing. It's like an actor playing a character who's acting. You have to write someone whose first language is not English, and you have to make it sound kind of Japanesey. Is there anything or any character in particular that you reference to kind of get that vibe?
Not a particular character. To be honest, it probably comes from having grown up watching anime. And the reason for that is in a lot of shows that don't have like, so companies like 4Kids would like recut the shows, they would redo the lip flaps, but for a lot of anime that have English dubs, they don't do that. They have to match their specific like way of speaking to match the lip flaps, and that leads to awkward pauses or ways of phrasing a sentence. And sort of like you can sort of take from that, and when you watch a show that's subtitled, sometimes subtitles will put it in sort of the original order of the sentence that they would have in Japanese. Like in Japanese, they basically reverse the sentence structure, so the impact of your words gets reversed a lot. And it's just general context and vibes that I basically pulled from to get Yuzuki's way of speaking across. I did put a conscious effort into like, okay, how would she phrase that? And like, you can even see on clips of people whose English is their second language, not only like from Japanese people. There's a certain way that like people who are learned English second may struggle with sentence structure, or they might be like verbose in some ways, or they might use a particular turn of phrase that they picked up when they were learning. But to answer your question, there wasn't one character I looked at to be like, okay, I'll copy how they do it. And both of you are right in that I tried my best to avoid just making her into a Asian caricature in the way she speaks.
She doesn't come across that way. I think, it's a worthy concern, but she does really... It feels like the way she speaks makes sense, I suppose. I think it would be very easy to go down a route that was a caricature, but I don't think that's the case. I think there's a lot of authenticity to it that is done quite well.
Yeah,
I mean, it's baked into her character. She's a Japanese folklore, so you can't totally get away from it.
Let her talk like a Yankee.
That's the curse. Just talk like an American. Anyway, let me give my thoughts. I'm not going to repeat all of my very detailed praise that I gave for her when she joined testing. It has all remained true. She was very good from the start. What I will say, yeah, the politeness was very consistent and unique enough to entertain. I liked a lot of her little verbal quirks, the way she anthropomorphized things, bye-bye shoes, that kind of stuff. Love when she gets very determined or excited and all sparkly over minor things. I have to also praise the very fun Japan-specific banter with Momo. I don't know if you just looked up like clothing brands or whatever, but the fact that she kind of picks up on that she's a clueless rich girl and she shops at places that Yuzuki could never afford.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun.
I found that very endearing. The discrepancies there.
I don't know if you just Googled that or...
It's a sequel of like, oh, where did you get that purse? Oh, it's from, it's nothing big. It's just from Versace. And it's like, what?
I buy my clothes in Walmart.
Who got Walmart in the UK? Wait, do they have Walmart in the UK?
We have Asda, which is part of the Walmart family.
Oh, I see. People of Asda, the subreddit could be very interesting.
On the art side, I want to say everything's, again, just super solid and polished. There's a clear vision of like what you want to have happen here, and the experience of you making all these different characters has allowed you to follow through on it very well. I especially like when she has the occasional kind of vacant expression. I think that's maybe even what the pose is called. But it keeps the horror aspect intact even before the actual reveal of the mouth, which is nice. Because you don't want to completely forget about that and then kind of get jump scared all over again.
I think in the last episode we talked about, or I probably went into detail about the considerations and stuff I did when I'm thinking about like her mouth is genuinely upsetting to things, so I don't think we need to cover that again.
I can't help but so I feel guilty, but I can't help but psychoanalyze you in every aspect of this character because she's your original character. So I can only assume that you put everything in here because it has an intense personal appeal for you. A bit obsessed, aren't you? I wrote in my notes. After all, you do have a number of commissions made of her. You really want to make this happen.
I mean, yeah.
There's the vibrator. There's the bathrobe that she's in for her sleepover outfit, which we will discuss in a future episode. So don't think this is the last you'll be seeing of Yuzuki. But yeah, and just of course all the developer attention she's gotten. I mean, it's really paid off. And, you know, I can make fun of you a little bit for it, but I think the biggest praise she's received out of all of this is that regular players, like people think she's real. People think she's from a real like manga series or whatever, and they report it as such. And like I often describe SPNatI, you know, the reason it's good to contribute to SPNatI is that it's a healthy, scaffolded experience where you can build some real artistic skills. I've always held that. That's why if you really take the work seriously and try to, you know, make, you know, character accurate stuff. And this is kind of the ultimate example of your progression as an artist, I think. You know, there's the cliche that we say where it's, oh, you know, every character is someone's OC. Well, if you get to the point where you can make a believable, entertaining OC that people think is from a real thing, then you can sell it as a real thing. So you made it, Nord. You're a real boy. You're a real artist.
Yeah.
Congrats, man. You should be proud.
Thank you. I mean, I did, like, I get the commissions just because how else am I going to really share the character since I can't draw myself?
Yes, you can. How many different poses and pieces of poses have you drawn?
Quite a few.
I'm pretty sure you drew Zeke's giant man ass in the intro here.
That is correct, yes. I'm always trying,
It's
but
a pretty big ass.
Man is cheeked up, all right.
Men can have big asses, all right.
Yeah, I do try. I'm always looking to improve. Having an OC is a way to improve without, well, at least in theory, not impacting on how people will perceive a character they would actually know from a source. It's very freeing, but I will also like repeat what I've said before, which is you should make an OC with a specific purpose in mind. There should be a specific audience you're trying to hit. You shouldn't just make them for the sake of it, or because you think it would be funny, because ultimately, I think people are like the reason people stick around here is for the horny.
True.
I'm really curious to see how she does on like the resort and just general, you know, like how will the play stats be maintained. I'm not sure if she's still highlighted as new or not.
No, but she sort of gets some degree of sort priority because she's an unsorted character. This is true of Momo as well, I'm pretty sure.
Well, anyway, let's wrap this episode up with another of your works. You should be proud of Yuzuki, and you should also be proud of dominating the agenda as usual. This has definitely been off a lot of people's radars. You just kind of rather silently, quietly added this in. It's Yuno's Epilogue. I alluded to this earlier. So for a while, Dunban had basically the only like female focus, female perspective, like straight epilogue, at least on the main roster. Maybe some of the really old ones are like that. But yeah, Yuno has now joined his ranks. So Nord, you are doing our small female community just a world of favors here. First, they got the knight in shining armor, or perhaps no armor, and now we have a Yuno, the soft uwu anime protagonist boy, clueless, dropping his spaghetti everywhere. If you prefer that. But yeah, this is Yuno's Epilogue, and I can just give you the synopsis right now. You play Uno with him. He kicks your ass, and then he asks to have sex with you, and then you have sex with him.
Some summary.
So Nord, extra game it's called. Nord, do you want to get into the development process of this?
There isn't really much of one. This is another thing where I just wanted to make a short and simple side project. Regretfully, at this moment in time, I haven't finished a male player version, but I will be honest and say the male player version is going to be pretty much exactly the same. He would still penetrate you, the player, but with the addition that you have a penis instead. It's another one where like I've just sort of done a slideshow more or less. All the animation budget went into the playing cards, and it's really just to sell an idea more than try to be revolutionary. Although maybe I'm talking too poorly of my own work. I want to know what you two think, but I don't really have much to say about it, even though I made it.
You did not advertise it very much.
I also didn't advertise it because I wanted to save that for when I had the male version done as well. Maybe after this podcast, I'll go and sort that out.
I didn't know it existed until it was on the podcast agenda, and I feel like a bad friend because of it, but I enjoyed it. I think it was very simple. I don't think, I don't have the ambitions to make epilogues for my characters, but I might actually because of reasons I'll get into later. Or next episode, but I really enjoyed that it was just simple and direct, and it does what you want it to. You want to have sex with the characters you play with, but that should be mostly true. So I rather enjoyed, I enjoyed it. It was very simple. I obviously don't, I'm non-binary, but I do have the body type presented in the female epilogue, and that made it easy. Get a lot of that, which is sort of, and maybe half the fun. It's sort of that fantasy and projection. I really enjoyed it. I don't have any particular notes. It's just funny that, would be bottom. Because he seems very much like that type of person to let someone else do the work after he's just crushed them into no.
Yeah, this is a very simple epilogue. I'm just going to go through my notes as I wrote them as I was going through the epilogue. My first one is the lead in here is that you're playing Uno with him. He's like showing you how to play, and it's like, you know what? I never tried rizzing them with Uno. Maybe that's the way. It certainly worked out for him, although even then, you didn't really. You yourself seem to have just kind of shrugged at writing an actual transition because it just kind of goes straight from the game to you fucking without any kind of like actual conversation that would take you to that point.
It is.
I'm not sure.
It is.
I'm not sure if either of you even like proposition that, or if you just kind of cut to them in bed.
It is much like Rosa's epilogue, where it has the vibes of instant loss, where it's a hard.
Isn't it just like, what do you want to do now?
Yeah, pretty much, and it's just a hard cut for comedic effect.
I really enjoyed that because it's so silly. It just makes it super easy to enjoy.
I mean, if you're going to do that, I think the comedy would be better served by an actual just hard cut instead of a fade. It's a filmmaking cinematic technique for you. On the subject of the Uno game, though, I had to wonder. So obviously, he's this Uno whiz in his 2-minute short for a source material. He's the protagonist of a hypothetical Uno anime. And he's showing this new girl how to play Uno. Would he get salty if a noob beat him?
No, he's too cheery for that.
Would he get? Oh well, you didn't actually win. I was just going easy on you. Like,
I think if both parties finish the game, regardless of what the game is, it seems like that's a win. Everyone finishes, you all win.
It was very funny. He gave a very different impression compared to Don Bon. He was kind of dropping his spaghetti all over the place. He's a bottom instead of a top. He thanks you for having sex with him, I'm pretty sure. So he's definitely not as suave as Dunban. So in that regard, very, very distinct. And I again noted, as you did, camera only sex animation. None of their bodies actually move. It's just the camera bouncing up and down. I'm fine with that. Budget epilogues. I don't really like epilogues that much, so I can't begrudge anyone for not putting too much effort into them. My question is really, and we can kind of review this on the responses sheet for the feedback poll, are players fine with that for the most part? Obviously, they would prefer something more cinematic, but even then, not always. Some people even say like something like Nami's is too long. So short and sweet isn't a bad thing. Most people seem to just want any epilogue whatsoever, which is kind of the problem with epilogues.
Yeah, it's the upside and downside that like players will be fine with whatever scraps you give them, just because epilogues are a bit of a rarity these days. Back in the old days, it feels like people would just put together a slideshow for a fun idea, and players mourn the loss of even those whenever a character gets a visual overhaul, even if it's like a visual and dialogue overhaul that makes the character so much better overall. It still feels like a loss to, for any amount of content to be taken away, even if it's just like, as I said earlier, it's just selling the idea of something to the player can be what they want,
Well, there was no animation engine back then, so you had to make the whole, slides, actual slides, with the character included in the background. They weren't a separate asset.
Yeah.
Last thing I want to say to wrap this up is that, as far as what story exists in this, not much. But aside from the Uno game to start things off, it lacked a little specificity to Yuno, because I expected him to bring up his girlfriend at some point, because I know he had one. Is one of the characters he thinks about, but he doesn't. It's just, aside from him being a soft boy, it didn't really seem like it had anything to do with or there's no relation to his source material. What's there?
Yeah, it's for that, it's a case where he basically admits during the course of the game that their relationship status it's complicated. So it's to give the impression that he has, an anime girlfriend to return to. However, currently he is single and ready to mingle.
What a break.
And mingle he did. Well, I'm glad we could all mingle with each other in this episode of the SPNatI podcast. I hope you enjoyed listening. Thanks very much for coming on, Grape Ghost. Thanks for coming on, Nord. As always, do either of you have any final comments on any of the topics we covered this episode?
I hope you all had a great evening. Here are 300 lines to your favorite characters.
May you all be blessed with good forfeit and climax scene within your time.
Lesbian sex epilogue.
Thanks for Epilogue, actually.
Oh, my apologies. I said the statement. I'm a fake. SPNatI dev.
Thanks for listening, everyone. This is SPNanon signing off, saying Purple Phantom will return. And by Purple Phantom, I mean Grape Ghost. Next episode.
His father say, I'll not forgive my father. Purple Phantom. The deep lore.
Okay. That was the cut point.